All right, so isolate, then separate. Solve both cases and check your solutions. How many solutions should we have? We should have 2. Okay, should have 2. Sometimes, though, we have what's called an extraneous solution. An extraneous solution is an answer that does not make sense in the problem. It's an answer that does not make sense in the problem. So, since we will have 2 answers, if we think about it sometimes in real life, it might not make sense. So, specifically, not making sense in real life. Like, for example, you throw a football and they say it goes below the x-axis. We all know a football cannot go below the x-axis. That would be an extraneous solution. Mathematically, it might work, but we know footballs don't go below the ground. All right, so let's get to some problems. Were you guys done copying all that? Top of the next page, I will have to admit that this next section I had never seen until today. Yes? I'm sorry? Yes, you have 5 passes. It's over there. Once you're done with your 5, that's it for the semester. So you need to consider.
When is semester?
For the semester.
When is semester?
When does it end? December. All right, so let's take a look at this. Solving the graph. This is the absolute value equation, and this is what that equation looks like as a graph. Okay? This says the absolute value is equal to -4. Now, there's some other stuff that we would do over here also, but if that is equal to -4, we set that equal to y equals -4. So we find -4. Whoa, I need to sign it. You need to write it. So this is y equals -4. Okay. So you set it equal to that y value, that horizontal line. And then where that graph crosses that horizontal line, we need to look for the x values because we're solving for x. So in this case, the x value of that point right there is 3. And for this point, it is 7. So our answer here is x equals 3, x equals 7. Now, let's see if we get this answer if we work it out algebraically. So we write down -2 times the absolute value of x minus 5 equals -4. Now, some of you might be saying, go ahead and bring it up. You might be saying, hey, wait a minute, that's equal to -4, but we don't have it isolated yet. You have to make sure it's isolated first. Okay? There you go. So this absolute value acts as a parenthesis. So these act like parentheses. So we're saying -2 times that equals -4, but we're not going to distribute. You don't distribute with absolute values. It is being multiplied, so I'm going to undo that multiplication by dividing by -2. Dividing by -2. -2's cancel out, and I'm left with the absolute value of x minus 5 equals -4 divided by -2 is +2. This is now isolated. It is the only thing on the left-hand side of that equation. So now I separate it. That's the isolate, then separate into my two cases. So the value of this absolute value is equal to 2. What two numbers do you know have an absolute value of 2? 2 and negative 2. So we're going to set each of those equal to this expression and say x minus 5 is equal to 2. And on the other side, x minus 5 is equal to negative 2. Okay? And then we need to solve for x. So you're getting 2 problems for the price of 1 when you do absolute values. Solving for x, you add 5, x here is equal to 7. On the other side, add 5, 5's cancel out, and x is equal to positive 3. And you're like, how in the heck are both of those numbers going to work? Well, let's do a check. So the check up here, substitute 7 in place of x in your original equation. So I have negative 2 times absolute value of 7 minus 5, absolute value, equals negative 4. And I said we treat that absolute value like a parenthesis. So 7 minus 5 is 2. Negative 2 times 2, is that equal to negative 4? Yes, it is. So that tells you 7 is correct. We do the same thing for positive 3. Negative 2 times absolute value of 3 minus 5, and absolute value equals negative 4. What is 3 minus 5? Negative 2. And what's the absolute value of a negative 2? How far away is negative 2 from 0? How far away? It's 2, right? So negative 2 times 2, is that equal to negative 4? Yes, negative 4 is equal to negative 4. So you know those two solutions are correct. Okay. Questions on how we solved that out. And look, we got the same answers, 3 and 7, from the graph as what we did in solving it algebraically. All right, we are going to skip example 1. There's not enough room to even do it right there. So let's go to A. All right, A. The key words are isolate, then separate. Isolate, then separate. So tell me, is A, do I have my absolute value isolated by itself? Yes? No? Maybe? Is it by itself on one side of the equation? Guys, come on. No, it's not. Right now it's being added to. So I need to isolate it by subtracting 8. Subtracting 8. 8's cancel out. I get the absolute value of 4x minus 3 is equal to 13. Chase. Care what? Mm-hmm. So now it is isolated. It is by itself. And I can separate. So we are basically saying what two values are 13 units away. Well, I'm going to set this equal to 13 because 13 is 13 units away. And I'm going to set it equal to negative 13. Okay. And notice I lost my absolute values there. Once you have it isolated and you put it into the two cases, lose the absolute values. Now we just solve. Add 3, add 3. 4x is equal to 16. Divide by 4. So x is equal to 4. Over on the other side, the second case, add 3, add 3. 4x is equal to negative 10. Divide by 4, divide by 4. X is equal to negative 10 fourths. Can I simplify? Yes, I can. Divide by 2 over 2. And I get negative 5 halves. X equals negative 5 halves. You're like, man, a fraction? I know. So let's do a quick check. Yes, you should check, at least mentally, if not writing it down. So in my check, I have absolute value of 4 times 4 minus 3 plus 8 equals 21. 4 times 4 is 16 minus 3 is 13. The absolute value of 13, how far away is 13 from 0? 13, right? So 13 plus 8, is that equal to 21? Yes, it is. Okay. If I check the other one, it'll give me the same thing. Negative 5 halves. So absolute value of 4 times negative 5 halves minus 3, absolute value plus 8 equals 21. I know this is intense. Wigwam, TP, and circus intense. Get it? Get it? Wigwam, wigwam, tense, TP, tense, circus, tense. Okay. 4 times negative 5 halves. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 4 twice. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Minus 3. That's still in the absolute value. So the absolute value of negative 13 plus 8 equals 21. How far away is negative 13 from 0? 13 plus 8. Is that equal to 21? Yes, it is. So that's a lot of writing when you check. Okay? A lot of writing. Are there any questions about that? So here is my check, and here is my check.
We gotta write both of those checks, we can only write one.
You don't have to write them, but you should at least do it in your head mentally. And I'll show you why when we get to C. Okay? All right, let's go to B. B, there used to be a way I could circle this. I think that was Doceri. And now this is not Doceri. That's too bad. Is everybody done writing all this? Because I'm going to have to erase. Huh?
Yeah, that's what I didn't write that.
Oh, yeah, it can be a fraction. All right, letter B. Let's go to B. Absolute value of 2x plus 5 minus 18 equals negative 3. Is it isolated? Jasmine, what do you think? No, it is not. So I need to isolate this. I'm going to add 18 to remove that subtracted 18. Those cancel out. Then I have 2x plus 5 equals negative 3 plus 18, which is 15. Now it is isolated. So I can divide it into my two cases and say, this is where I lose my absolute values. 2x plus 5 equals 15. And 2x plus 5 equals what? Equals what? Negative 15, yes. Because you're saying what two values are 15 away from 0. So now we solve. Minus 5, 2x is equal to 10. Divide by 2, x is equal to 5. Over on the other side, subtract 5. 2x is equal to negative 20. Divide by 2, x is equal to negative 10. There are your two solutions. If you substitute it in, let's do this mentally. 2 times 5 is how much? 10. 10 plus 5 is? Guys, we can write it out or we can do this orally. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 5 is? 15. Absolute value of 15 is 15. 15 minus 18 is negative 3. Let's do it with negative 10. What's 2 times negative 10? 2 times negative 10. Negative 20. What's negative 20 plus 5? Negative 15. What's the absolute value of negative 15? How far away is that from 0? 15. 15 minus 18 is negative 3. So that checks out. One more problem, guys. One more. Letter C. Isolate, then separate. Chase, come on, let's go. Chase. Come on, Chase. Put the phone away. No, actually just leave it up here so I can see it. So, isolate, then separate. Letter C. Is that isolated? Who haven't I talked to? Allison, is that isolated in C, my absolute value? No. So what should I do first? Subtract 10. Subtract 10 on this side. Whatever you do on one side of the equation, you do on the other. And I get the absolute value of 4x minus 7 equals negative 8. Well, it is isolated. Can an absolute value be equal to a negative amount? No. So this is saying my absolute value is a negative amount. We cannot do that. So what do we automatically know the answer should be? If it's not possible, yeah, it should be the null set. Null set or the empty set. There is no solution. But I am guessing a lot of you will not recall that. Okay? So we're going to work it out and pretend like it was, because you're going to say, okay, it's isolated. Let's put it into the two cases. I know that's what you're going to do. So you would say 4x minus 7 equals negative 8, because that's what's over there. And then you're going to say 4x minus 7 equals positive 8. Right? So let's add 7 to both sides for the first one. 4x is equal to 15. Divide by 4, divide by 4. X is equal to 15/4. It could be a solution. Just because it's a fraction, that doesn't mean anything. Over on the other side, add 7, add 7. 4x is equal to Oh, I messed up. You guys didn't check me. Where did I mess up? -8 plus 7. I gotta back up. -8 plus 7. I was gonna get the same answer. I was like, that shouldn't happen. Equals -1 divide by 4. Divide by 4. X is equal to -1/4. There we go.
We already knew the answer for the other one, though.
Yeah, I know, right? So X is equal to 15/4. You're like, okay, we have two solutions, right? Well, let's substitute them in. Guys, heads up. Everybody up here, phones away. You really need to see this. So when you substitute in for X and put -1/4 in place of X, -7 plus 10, is that equal to 2? Well, you're multiplying. 4 times -1/4, the 4's cancel out. You get -1 minus 7, which is -8. How far away is -8 from 0? 8. So 8 plus 10 is equal to 2. 18 is equal to 2. It is not. It is not. And you're going to get the same thing when you put 15/4 in. You'll come up with an equation that does not make sense. So these are not the answers. The correct answer, as we said before, is the null set.
That's why I didn't write it.
You should have, though, because that's what you're going to do. And that's why you need to check. Okay? So tonight, if you wanted to do homework number 2, you can start it. You will not. Excuse me, I'm still talking. Sit down. The bell does not dismiss you. Sit down, please. You can start homework 2. Make sure you have homework 1 turned in.